Know me, I'll do that again. Hi, everybody. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Debra Cleaver, the founder and CEO of VoteAmerica. I have too many slides for today, so I'll try to move quickly. I have too many slides because I've been doing this work for a very long time and have a fair amount of things to say. So just high level, Vote America is a goal-oriented, tactic-agnostic voter turnout organization, and our goal, full stop, is to increase voter turnout. Often when I tell people what I do, they say, oh, you register voters. Vote America does register voters. We register hundreds of thousands of voters, but our actual goal is to increase turnout. I've broken this presentation down into two parts. First, we're so close to the election, and I really want to dispel some voting myths. And then after that, I'm going to go right into an overview of our 2026 programs. So first, there is this persistent myth that voter registration is the most effective way to increase turnout. I say it's persistent and a myth because people have said this nonstop for well over a decade. And what you hear often is that 90% of registered voters cast ballots in presidential elections. Um, this is actually progressive misinformation. In 2015, Demos, which is a think tank, wrote a 54-page policy paper on the impact of automatic voter registration, which is obviously a policy that we support. And the report is great. I was actually just rereading it yesterday, except the report includes this one sentence that that of voting eligible people, only 64% voted in 2028 and 62% in 2012, but that the rate of voter turnout among registered voters was 90% and 87%, respectively. So Demos is highly respected. I read everything they put out. And because they said that turnout was 90% of registered voters, everyone has said that nonstop since this report came out. And the problem is that this statistic is wrong. And they got this statistic from the census, and the census is all self-reported data. People lie to the census. They lie to the census all the time, and they lie to the census because they know that they should say that they voted. So the actual data tells a really different story, which is that the turnout rate in presidential elections among registered voters is about 75%. And that's a very high number of voters, but that's clearly not 90%. And when you look at the hard numbers of people who were registered and people who were voted, this is off by tens of thousands of voters. So, no, 90% of registered voters aren't voting. But if you believe this to be true, you will focus all of your efforts on registering voters. Um, Moving along. So this chart, which was put together by one of our interns, is really interesting. It shows that at least 80% of people have been registered to vote for decades now. And this is because of the Motor Voter Act, passed in 1993. Full legal name is the National Voter Registration Act. And this is the federal act that made voter registration part of getting your license. So for 30 years now, we've seen really impressively high rates of voter registration. But what we haven't seen is a commensurate increase in turnout itself. Voter turnout has actually been steady for about 60 years. Um, if you want to increase voter turnout, you have to get more people to actually vote. Like, there's no intermediary step. Whether or not you vote is a binary. And voter registration is obviously a prerequisite to voting, but it's not a guarantee. And one thing that I want you to take from this webinar or from any conversation with me in general, because I say this all the time, over 86% of the population is registered to vote. This number was accurate as of December 2024. We're getting this number directly from the US Election Assistant Commission. They are a federal agency and they get this directly from the states. So while voter registration is important, and you do need to make sure that 18-year-olds get registered to vote and recent movers register to vote, and new citizens, if you register people to vote, but you don't run mobilization campaigns, they won't vote. Um, so yeah, that is an important myth to dispel. The myth there would be that registering voters will automatically increase turnout. It won't. It will increase the number of people who are registered to vote. The second myth, which is actually very important as we head into the midterms, is that young voters are moving to the right. Um, this this myth started probably within a week of the 2024 election. Like every pundit, regardless of political persuasion, was on air in the paper saying that young voters are moving to the right. And this fact, let's put this in quotes, has been used to justify ignoring or excluding young voters from outreach efforts. And this is actually based on the below chart, which is the partisan divide among the young people who actually voted. So when you look at the people who voted, yeah, it looks like this huge shift to the right. It looks like Republican support went from 39% of young people to 45% of young people. That's a 6 point shift. I mean, that would be really shocking and really hard for anyone who works in the progressive space to overcome. But that is actually not the full picture at all. If you look at the entire cohort of young people, you actually, the data tells a very different story. We like to say at Vote America that there's three political parties. There's the Democrats, there's the Republicans, and then there is the couch. So what actually happened between 2020 and 2024 is that Republican support more or less steady. It went from 22% of the votes to 20. Democrat support dropped, but not because Democrats started voting for Republicans. It's that they didn't vote at all. Like support for the couch went up by 10 entire percentage points, and that is huge. Um, but it doesn't like indicate in any way that young voters are increasingly Republican. They actually showed less support for the Republican Party in 2024. And what they really showed is an increased likelihood to just not vote at all. Um, so another major point here, young voters are not shifting to the right at all. They're disengaging because both major political parties are ignoring them. And I can say that we experienced this firsthand in 2024. We were out there really actively fundraising for one of our like hallmark youth engagement programs, this college media program. And we were talking to all the largest funders in the space, both nonpartisan, nonprofit, and partisan funders. And everyone was telling us that young people are fully covered. And when we pressed harder, they would say, yeah, we've already hired student organizers. We already have people on the ground. And as an example of fully covered, one of the campaigns said that they had 3 paid organizers at ASU, a university that has 60,000 students, which is obviously not fully covered. So when we think about young people, we just remind ourselves that if you do not engage them, they won't vote. This is really straightforward. There's no magic sauce here. So thank you for letting me be on my soapbox for a minute. Now I'm going to shift to what we're actually doing in 2026, which is probably more exciting. So first, we're going to be running our college media program again. I started running this program under vote.org and brought it with me to Vote America. It is one of my favorite programs and a super effective program. So when I say college media, I mean that colleges actually own media channels. Almost any media you can think of, whether it's print or digital, exist on college campuses, is owned by the colleges themselves, and actually needs to be approved by the administration. So these are just some screenshots of some of our 2024 college media program. We put ads on the side of buses. We put ads in the school newspapers. We had on-campus billboards. We put digital ads all over the digital version of the student newspapers. And what we didn't capture here is when schools send emails to the students. We also have paid advertising in those emails. We've been really happy with the results of college media for a few reasons. First of all, it's hyper targeted. If we want to reach like students in a specific congressional district and we put ads on those college campuses, we know we're reaching potential voters who can actually vote in that district. The second one is that students trust the college media in a way they don't trust other forms of media. They're young, they're savvy, they don't trust social media, they don't trust AI, they don't trust any of that. But they do trust the college media because they know that the administration had to actually approve the media before it could run. Another interesting thing about that, because there's a layer of approval, a lot of partisan groups simply can't run college media because the schools are nonpartisan and they don't want to be seen as getting directly involved in partisan campaigns. But they know us, they know our work, they know we are nonpartisan, and we've never had any of our creative rejected. So another reason why we like college students and college media, and I imagine that everyone on this call knows this, they are young, they're diverse, they are progressive, they are actually the most reliable progressive voting bloc in America. And there are so many college students. It's 19.4 million undergraduate students as of fall 2024, with about 2 million more graduate students. And we keep finding for the past 9 years now that we don't need to convince college students to vote. We mostly need to teach them how to vote, such as when to vote, where to go, and what to bring with you. And we've been running these educational campaigns, letting students know that they have dual residency and they can either choose to register to vote on campus or back at their parents' house. Um, Among out-of-state students, we find that encouraging them to register in-state on campus increases turnout like an insane amount. It's about a 40-point increase in turnout versus helping them register to vote back home. And that's honestly because they're young, they're busy, they're new to voting, and they're just less likely to navigate the absentee voting process than to vote in person. Another reason, and I think you guys have seen this a lot, that we really like college media is that almost all partisan spending remains focused on broadcast and TV ads. This is depressing. This is a depressing slide. I'm sorry, y'all. But the most up-to-date data shows that the average person under 50 hasn't seen a single minute of broadcast television over the past year. But, for the past 3 cycles, candidates have spent almost all of their money on broadcast TV. Broadcast TV has no impact whatsoever on voter turnout. I pulled this slide together yesterday, and it is based on meta-analysis of most of the really prominent tactics, turnout tactics. And this is the anticipated boost during midterm elections for various tactics. Just so you know, we have tried and tested every single tactic here except for broadcast television. And most of these tactics, I mean, these are measurable results that are statistically significant, but we're looking for results that aren't just measurable, but are also meaningful. And by meaningful, I mean enough of an impact to actually change the outcome of an election. So for us, no brainer here, college media just produces really reliable results. And I will tell you this, if someone had invested, say, $20 million in college media in 2024, just taking a tiny slice of that $5.1 billion spent on broadcast television and invested it in college media, there's a really good chance that Kamala Harris would be president because college students are so overwhelmingly progressive. That's not a partisan statement. That's just a statement of facts. Um, we're making some really fun improvements to this program this year. The first one is that we are now part of the America Votes Coalition, um, which means that we are in community with 400 progressive orgs that run mobilization programs. And this is going to make it so much easier for us to coordinate with everyone else who's running a program on campus. We really like to run our media programs on the campuses that have field organizers because that's how you get an exponential return on your investment. We're also going to be running C3 and C4 programs this year, which means that we can talk more about the candidates themselves than we could in the past. And also, probably the best part, we're building software right now. The engineers have started building it that's going to guide students through the process and give them school-specific information, such as whether or not they can use their student ID when they're voting. And we're going to offer this software to other orgs to use for free because we are not capitalist, and because we know that there's a real market for this. People have been asking us to build this for years. Um, Quick time check. Okay, I'm doing okay. So another program, super nerdy, but we have been really interested in permanent absentee voting as a way to increase turnout. There are 11 states that will let you sign up for permanent absentee voting, which means you receive all of your ballots in the mail. This is an opt-in program. It's available in 11 states, 48 million citizens, but a huge percentage of people have no idea that this is available. And it's actually legislation that tends to get passed because it significantly reduces the cost of election administration. It's actually less expensive to mail ballots to people than to open, staff, and administer polling places. And so we did some analysis in 2004 with Professor Scott Minkoff to see whether or not permanent absentee voting actually increases turnout. And we found that there is a pretty much a 13-point boost in turnout among people who receive their ballots in the mail. And that's controlling for all demographic factors, including age and voter propensity score. That's huge. 13-point, God, what would I do for a reliable 13-point boost in turnout? I don't know. I would sell my soul to the devil to get that sort of turnout increase in every state. So we were really lucky that a donor in Michigan recently gave us about $100,000 to run a pilot. And it was, I mean, it was a fast pilot. We had 3 weeks to do it. There were about 67,000 people in this one small state Senate district who we were targeting. And we had to move quickly, but we managed to test 5 different outreach methods. They're on the screen, but postcards, cold SMS, Facebook ads, and then OLV, CTV, that's online video, and connected TV. Those are just video channels. And so this was really exciting. Of the 1,400 people who signed up for permanent absentee voting in that district, a full 50% of them were in our target universe. That's actually just wild for us. We're super happy with that result. We also found that postcards had the highest action rate. Like we had a really 84% of the people who got postcards and came to our site actually signed up for PAV. Text messages had a really high click rate, but a lower conversion rate. And that is probably because we needed to do more education around what permanent absentee voting is. Um, Not surprisingly, we found that people who had voted by mail in another election were significantly more likely to respond to our prompt to make it permanent, probably because they've already experienced the joy and convenience of being able to vote from home. Um, and we also found that our video ads really were positively correlated with the likelihood to take action. This is where that earlier stat came from, which is that 50% of the people who ultimately signed up for permanent absentee voting, and that includes people who came through us and people who went directly to the state, actually were on the receiving end of our messages, and that makes sense. Video ads, things like that, are what's known as top of funnel. Like they're a really good way to just like spread the word about something. But you know, it's obviously harder to click on a Hulu ad than to scan a QR code on a postcard. So we found this to be very promising, a good reason for us to continue to invest in sort of video ads, in addition to other tactics that we know work. And the biggest surprise of our test, and again, it was relatively small, and we didn't have a lot of time to do it, but young people responded so well to postcards. I wouldn't say it's at myth level, but people are like, do we really think that young people check their mail or that they're going to respond to mail? They absolutely do. 20% of the signups from mail were from people under 45. And we actually asked the young people on our team, you know, our interns and other young people we know, and they were like, well, getting mail is exciting. We get so little mail. So we don't see any reason not to encourage um, young people in these states to sign up to vote by mail, um, because they're responding really well to this. Um, and then another program that is exciting for us, we're really significantly expanding our footprint by making sure that other organizations use our software. And I'm going to explain all of this. So over the past 6 years, Vote America has built this comprehensive suite of software for ourselves. Every program that we've ever run involves building a piece of software, whether it's our pre-registration campaign or our permanent absentee voting campaign. We always build software for two reasons. The first is that voting is complicated in the United States, and software just makes it a little bit easier for voters to navigate it. And the second reason is because it lets us measure the impact of our work pretty quickly. We can get results way before the voter file comes back. You don't actually get the voter file until the following year. So if we want to know if our program is promising in real time, it's advantageous to send voters to the website. And because we take, you know, privacy so seriously, we actually spend a ton of money making sure that the platform is secure. We probably spend $50,000 a year getting SOC 2 Type 2 certified and HIPAA compliant and paying for third-party pen testing, that stands for penetration testing, just to make sure that we can safely and securely store voter data. So we realized that we could take everything we've built for ourselves and turn it into a product for other people to license from us. And our standard price to use our software is free, because that is what our customers can afford. So even though we refer to them as customers, most people don't pay us for the software because, not surprisingly, everyone is poor in 2026. And 290 organizations are using our software. We just checked right before this webinar to get the most recent number. And it includes some really like heavy hitters in the space. MoveOn just signed on and they're about to launch an entire election center. Feel Good Action, a group that we love that does really amazing work with young people. Daily Co's, Do Something, Everytown. They're all using our software because we've spent almost $4 million developing it, and it's just not worth their time to build other software. So over the next few months, we're really focused on other groups who are actively running voter mobilization campaigns because they see the value right away, and it's just not a good use of their time or money to build other software. And one of the reasons they are also seeing the value of using our software is we send election reminders in perpetuity to any voter who's ever used our software. So if MoveOn uses our software to get a whole bunch of people to check their registration status, they know that we're going to send email and text message reminders to actually vote. Another thing that we learned interesting recently that really confirmed something that we expected is that a lot of these groups like MoveOn that do really amazing advocacy work aren't necessarily resourced to run mobilization campaigns. And MoveOn just sent an email to their entire list about this, so I'm not sharing anything confidential. I think most people assume that if you're a MoveOn member, you definitely voted in the presidential election. I assume that. I mean, I've been a MoveOn member since they launched in 2004. MoveOn went through their own list and they matched it to the voter file to determine how many MoveOn members didn't vote in the last presidential election. And they called their members who didn't vote skippers. And it turned out that MoveOn had enough skippers in competitive states to change the outcome of the presidential election. So even when you look at the far left or the far right, there are so many people that we assume are voting who aren't voting. So yeah, short term, we're really focused on groups that we know are running mobilization campaigns this year. And longer term, we're focused on groups like the Girl Scouts and Scouting America and Snapchat and other groups that, that we know are going to be around year after year and well positioned to help us reach, millions of voters at scale. Another thing that we are doing this year is making it clear that we will provide software to partisan groups. We are a nonpartisan org, but we will provide software to anyone who is values aligned with us. It's really easy to be values aligned with Vote America. All you have to do is not be an election denier, not espouse hateful values. Like if you're anti-trans, if you're, anti-choice, if you're openly racist, we won't work with you. And you need to believe in science. And so there are absolutely candidates across the entire political spectrum who can use our software, and that's fine. We have a Republican group right now using our software. But the thing that was really surprising is there is no company that is providing voter mobilization software for progressive leading candidates. And I say this is really surprising because if you go to swampthevoteusa.com right now, this is Trump's main website, you're going to see 5 or so buttons that encourage you to get registered to vote and not a single donate button. Whereas if you go to any Democrat's website, you're going to see 5 donate buttons and not a single get ready to vote button. We think this is a mistake. We want every candidate to actively encourage their site visitors to actually get ready to vote. And we're not seeing that. And I looked into who's powering the software on Trump's website, which is good. The software is good. I'm impressed with the product. It's a group called votepro.gop, and this group is actually owned, partially owned, I think maybe a 20 or 30% ownership stake by the RNC. So if you are a Republican and you are running for office, they will give you software to make sure that your supporters are registered and opted into election reminders. Um, I would advise maybe not signing up at Swamp the Vote USA. I've used the product and I get fundraising emails and texts from Donald Trump every day, but feel free to poke around and look at the product. Um, so I said that the software is free. It's free to use. It's really simple. We've set it up so that organizations or people who have 0 minutes of technical support can just get started. And you can go to secure.voteamerica plus right now and sign up, and you'll have access to your own instance of best-in-class software. And then one last project, and this is for this is a longer term project, but I think I told you guys along the way that we own going in the wrong direction.com. So 100% of teenagers can register to vote before they're 18. I started vote.org and I didn't know it was 100% until 2 years ago. And it's called pre-registration. It's absolutely amazing. In most states, it starts at 16. And what happens is you sign up when you're 16, and then when you turn 18, your voter registration is automatically activated. Which is great. We can reach you when you're in high school, and then you're ready to vote the second you turn 18. But one of the reasons we're so excited about this is that when you look at turnout among the absolute youngest cohort of voters, 18 to 24, turnout is 13 points higher among people who pre-registered than among people who registered to vote at 18. So the number 13 is a theme for us. We see this with permanent absentee voting. We see this with pre-registration. You've already heard me say this once. I'll say it again. In general, I would sell my soul to the devil to guarantee a 13-point boost in turnout. That doesn't seem to be an option right now, but it's very much an option for us to start running programs that encourage high schoolers to register to vote. There are 8 million high school students as of the fall, when they go back to school in August, who could vote in the 2028 election. That's a huge number of people. And right now, there's only 3 organizations that are doing any work in this space. It's us, and then it's our friends at the Civic Center and Feel Good Action. So huge opportunity, not a lot of focus, so much room for growth and collaboration. And we actually got the American Federation of Teachers to invest in this work. They not only gave us money, which is exciting, we need money to operate, but they're willing to share all of our materials with teachers. And we're so excited for this. We've been working on it in the background for a while, and 2027, you're going to just hear over and over from me about, and the team, the importance of pre-registering voters. Okay, I hope I didn't talk too fast for people, but there are 132 days until Election Day, which is pretty soon. It's actually, I wish it were a longer period of time, but it isn't. And the truth is that people who are running for office do not spend their money on voter turnout. They spend their money on advertising campaigns, raising name recognition. That's what they do with their money. And that's fine. That's what they're, I guess, supposed to do. But you actually can't count on candidates or partisan spending to increase turnout. Almost all turnout work is done by nonprofit organizations. And I feel really comfortable saying that we will all benefit from increased turnout this November. 2026 has been pretty rough in every way. Um, People aren't happy with the government. gas is over $6 a gallon right now in San Francisco. Things aren't great. And while voting won't solve everything that's wrong, not voting will make everything worse. So this is my formal invitation to anyone on this call to please consider yourself part of the Vote America team. If you run an organization, sign up right now for our software and we will help you use it. We will help you reach as many potential voters as possible. If you're a donor and you're donating to other voter turnout orgs, just let them know. Let them know that they can work for us, work with us, and the software is free. If you know anyone who works in ed tech, we're really interested in working with them as a way to reach students. And also let your friends know that 86% of Americans are already registered to vote. So it isn't that voter registration isn't important. It's that the only thing that increases turnout is making sure that people actually cast ballots. And of course, there are many organizations that you could donate to right now. I feel pretty strongly that you should donate to Vote America. Um, because we are goal-oriented and tactic agnostic, and all of our decisions are based on data, and we are really committed to investing in tactics that produce a meaningful boost in turnout. There are many tactics that we've used over the years that reliably provide a 1 point boost in turnout, but that's just too low for us right now. Like if it's not at least a 5 point boost in turnout, it's not the best use of our time. I think a lot of you guys know me. I think you probably have gathered that I work a lot, the team works a lot, and we really want to work on things that provide a significant boost to voter turnout. Um, and I am going to stop sharing now. That was my entire deck, and I would love to take questions if anyone has questions.
Yeah, if you have a question for Deborah, you can either drop that into the Q&A by typing that in, or I put in the chat a screenshot of how to raise your hand in the Zoom webinar. And if you raise your hand, I can unmute you and have you ask your question that way as well.
And by the way, I will answer any question about voting, including very hard questions. And if you stump me, I'll just follow up with you afterwards and get an answer to you. But no question. Um, Terry, the best way to make sure that anything that is sent to us gets to us is just to coordinate with Emma. Emma, some of you know, used to be on the fundraising team, but Emma now runs all operations instead. Um, so yeah, if you have any, if how can you share the webinar with other people? We're actually going to upload it to YouTube, and then we will send out the link to anyone who joined. Any questions? Guys, I know I share so much information. That is because I am a nerd. And there's so much data in this space. And there's also so much like misinformation. And it's not disinformation. People aren't trying to say the wrong things. It's just like certain factoids take hold and then you can kind of never get rid of them. Um, just interesting. I guess you start to notice that if you've been in one space for a very long time. Any questions? Did I talk too fast? There were so many slides. And I'm a native New Yorker, so I generally speak pretty quickly.
I think for you, I think that was a good pace, in my opinion. All right. I don't see anything in the Q&A or hands raised. But Deborah loves to chat with folks. So if you leave this webinar and you're like, oh, I have this burning question for the team now, you can always you'll, like I said, we'll send out the recording. Feel free to send your question to us in any of our follow-up communication after this.
You know what? I see a question that is pretty interesting. How angry do I think that voters are with both parties? Okay, that is a fair question. Um, very, very would be the answer to that. I mean, people are angry, and people are angry because everything is outrageously expensive right now. Historically, midterm elections benefit the party that isn't in control. So that means like if there's a Republican in the White House, midterm elections will generally benefit Democrats. Um, the anger with both parties is real. I can say that one of the ways to overcome that is their candidates. I mean, it's like kind of candidate specific. Um, they're really hungry for candidates who say things like, I am going to make life more affordable for you. I'm a native New Yorker. I live in San Francisco, but I pay a lot of attention to the New York races. And, you know, New York is a blue city, so it's the primaries that are really competitive. And what we saw yesterday is a bunch of incumbents losing to candidates who are saying, if I'm elected to office, I am going to do everything I can to make groceries and rent more affordable to you. So I don't work in candidate recruitment. Maybe my next career will be candidate recruitment. Um, it seems like the frustration is more with incumbents, um, or at least is very clearly directed at incumbents. Um, so that's real. Look, I'm always worried about turnout, but I can say that if you target registered voters and you remind them when the election is, where to go, what to bring, and we've had really great results in years past, just saying midterm elections are as important as presidential elections. Don't skip this election. Every single member of the House of Representatives is up for re-election. A third of the Senate is up for re-election. Like, do not sit out midterm elections. So I'm always hopeful that we'll see higher turnout. And I am hopeful that we're making some progress telling like other groups that like, hey, if we could just get registered voters to cast ballots this year, that would be Jesus, this if every registered voter cast a ballot this year, that'd be a 40-point increase over expected turnout. But if we could just get the people who voted in the presidential elections to vote again, that's a 20-point boost in turnout. And so that's not me saying that we're not focused on helping like young voters register to vote. It's just there's so much opportunity just getting presidential voters to vote again. And Emma is right. I love to talk just in general. I love to talk on the phone. People can call me. But, you know, I'm an optimist at the end of the day. I wouldn't do this work if I wasn't an optimist. And this is my prediction for November. Could be wrong. Let's not go to Poly Market with this. I think a lot of incumbents are going to lose their seats because when you are a citizen and you're frustrated with what's happening in the United States, it makes sense that you would want to get rid of the currently elected officials and vote in someone new. Um, so we'll see. I mean, we got to keep the faith, y'all. We got 132 days, and that is actually in the election world kind of a lot of days. Um, and yeah, we're excited to see what happens. And again, we are actively fundraising. I can't promise you that your preferred candidate will win, but I can promise you that Vote America will spend your money really well. on the tactics that we think will produce the greatest return on investment. And if there are no other questions, going to give it one more minute, ask anything.
Yeah,
If
final
you want to
call,
know
drop
where
it in
you
the
can
chat,
get a
raise
Vote
your
America
hand.
hat, we'll send you a link to where you can get one. And one thing I forgot to say, we have two new people on the fundraising team, Joey and Adam. So now you won't just hear from me, you'll hear from Joey and Adam. They are wonderful. They have both worked in campaigns and at many nonprofits, and Joey's even run for office himself. So they are both an utter delight, and they're going to reach out to you, and you'll really enjoy talking to both of them. They're a lot more extroverted than I am. And I think that's a wrap. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. We'll send out the link to the recording, and we're going to talk to you guys many times before November.
Amazing. Thank you, everyone.